Okay, so this video is going to help some of you who still need a reminder or some reteaching on solving equations when there's a fraction. And the easiest way to do this so that the equations are not so cumbersome is to eliminate the fractions. So looking at this equation, we have half of a group of z plus 6 is equal to 3/2 of z plus 6. Okay, I'm going to put a little mark there so we know those are z's and not 2's. So instead of having a half of a group, because our denominators are both the same here, we want to make this group of z a whole group. So how do we do that? How do you make a half a whole? We double it, right? We multiply it by 2. So we're going to take this entire equation and multiply it by 2, because we can do the same thing here to eliminate this denominator. So if you don't remember how to multiply fractions, excuse me, go to an easier example. So for example, let's think about it. If you don't remember, so say 1/2 times 1/2. Well, if you have a granola bar, but you only have half of it, and you take a half of it, how much is that going to be? Well, it's going to be 1/4 of your whole. So we know that 1/2 times a half equals 1/4. So how did we get those numbers? We just multiplied straight across the numerators and the denominators. So back to this. We're going to multiply by 2. And since we're multiplying by a fraction, if it helps you, you can remember, you can just put it over 1. So 2 times 1/2 is going to give you 2/2 of z. Then we have to multiply it by every term. Remember, terms are separated by addition and subtraction. So now we have to multiply 2 times this term. So 2 times 6 equals 12. Looking at this side of the equation, remember this is a balance. So if we multiply everything on this side of the equation by 2, we have to double everything on this side. However, this is only one term. Remember, terms are separated by addition and subtraction. So since there's no addition or subtraction in between 3/2 and this quantity, this is one term. So we're only going to multiply the number on the outside of the parentheses. So instead of having 3/2, we're going to have 6/2 times z plus 6. Okay? Now we can simplify. The whole reason that we multiplied by 2 was because we wanted to be able to divide by, see, now we can divide and simplify these fractions, which will help us be able to eliminate them. So 2 divided by 2, that gives us z all by itself, one group of z, plus 12 equals 6 divided by 2 is equal to 3 times z plus 6. Now all we need to do is distribute. So we'll end up here again with z plus 12 equals 3z plus 18. Now we can take a z from both sides. And that will give us 0 here. So now we'll have 12 is equal to 2z, I put an x, silly, 2z plus 18. Now we can get rid of this 18, so we'll have our z's by itself by subtracting 18, which will then give us 0 on this side. So now 2z is equal to negative 6. So if 2z is equal to negative 6, then we can divide both sides by 2, and z will equal negative 3. Okay? How do we check our answer to make sure we're correct? We can take -3 and substitute right back into these equations. And as long as it balances, we're good. Let's go to this one. So we'll say -3 plus 12, that's going to give you 9. And then if we have 3 times -3, that will be -9 plus 18. That's going to -9 plus 18 is going to give you 9. So we know that our answer has checked. Let's try it again on this one. Again, our denominators happen to be the same. So we're going to multiply all the terms by the denominator in this case. So again, the denominator is 2. So we'll multiply by 2. Well, 2 times 1/2 is going to give us 2/2 of x. 2 times 3 is going to give us 6 equals 2 times 7/2 is going to give us 14/2 of x plus 10. Let's simplify. This will give us x plus 6 equals 7x plus 10. Now we can take an x from both sides. So now this gives us 0. So now we have 6 is equal to 6x plus 10. Now we can take 10 from this side and 10 from this side. If you want, you can stop the video anytime during this solution and go on and finish it on your own, and then play it again to make sure that you've done it correctly. Now you have 0 here. So we have -4 equals 6x. Now we need to divide by our coefficient of x because we want 1x. So we'll divide by 6 and divide by 6 on this side. So now we have 1x equals -4/6. So we're done. Remember, we're leaving our solutions as a fraction, not turning them into a decimal unless that's the form that they are in the problem. So in this case, x equals -4/6. And again, we could go back and substitute -4/6 into the equation and solve to make sure that our solution is correct. Okay? Let's look at a case when our denominators excuse me, are not the same. Here we have 9 and -3. So we need to come up with a number that's divisible by both 9 and 3. We call that a multiple of both of those numbers, a common multiple. Or if you want to think about what number can I divide by both 9 and 3? Well, we could do 27 just by multiplying the two of them together. Or we also know that 9 is a multiple of 3. So we can multiply this whole equation by 9. So in this case, this is 9 over 1. Remember, this is just a funny looking fraction. So 9 times 3y will give us 27y. And 9 times -6 is -54. And remember, now the denominator is still 9, correct? Sorry, got to hold the camera right. Now we're going to multiply 9 times this side of the equation as well. So 9 times 4 is 36. And 9 times -2y is going to give you -18y. And 1 times -3 is -3. All right. Now all we have to do is simplify. We can't combine anything on the right or the left yet because we don't have any like terms in the numerators there. So let's divide 27y by 9. Well, that's going to give us 3y. And negative 54 divided by 9 is going to give you negative 6. You'll notice our numerator is exactly the same as it was before we multiplied by 9. So that can be a good little shortcut for you if that helps you. In this case, we do need to divide 36 by negative 3. That's going to give us negative 12. And negative 18y divided by negative 3 is 6y. So that becomes positive. Now we have an equation that we can go ahead and solve. So let's take away 3y on this side. This is going to give us 0. Now, my paper's slipping, sorry. This will give us 3y, and we have negative 12 on this side, and we have negative 6. Let's add 12 to this side and this side, which will give us 0 here. So now 3y is equal to 6. So we divide by 3, our coefficient of y, so we can get 1y. And then y is going to equal 2. It's always a good idea to take the 2 and put it back into the equation to double check and make sure that we're correct. Let's look at a word problem. This says, what value of x do the expressions 2/3 of x plus 2 and 4/3 of x minus 6 have the same value? So in other words, we want to know, when is x going to be the same for those two expressions? So if we want to know when they're going to be the same, another word in math for the same is equal, right? So we want to know when x is going to be the same for those, or when x is going to be equal. So let's go ahead and make them equal to one another by creating an equation. Now, what are we going to multiply by? We're going to multiply by 3 because we want to make everything bigger. And because all of these are separated by addition and subtraction, we're going to multiply all of those terms by 3. So this is going to give us 6/3 of x plus 6 equals 12/3 of x minus 18. Now we can simplify and get 2x plus 6 equals 4x minus 18. Now you should be able to go ahead and combine your like terms. Subtracting 2 x's from this side and this side, that is going to give us 0 here. So 6 is going to equal 2x minus 18. If we add 18 to both sides, that's going to end up with 24 equals 2x. So we can divide by 2. So then we have 1x now. X equals 12. So when x is 12, that's going to make both of these expressions the same. Okay, another example here. Let's first of all look at how our equation's built and find where our terms are. So we only have one addition or subtraction sign. So this is a term, and this is a term, and then this whole thing is a term because there's no addition and subtraction other than what's going on inside the parentheses. Again, these are z's, not 2's. All right, so this time our denominators is a 3. So let's go ahead and multiply our whole equation by 3. So that's going to give us 3/3 of z plus 4 minus 6. Oh, nope, forgot to multiply it by 3. So this is going to be minus 18. My fault. See how easy it is to make a mistake? So that's why going back and checking your work is always a great idea. Then we'll multiply 3 times 2/3. That's going to give us 6/3 times 5 minus z. Now we can simplify and get, this becomes 1. So we'll have z plus 4 minus 18 equals 2 times 5 minus z. Let's go ahead and distribute on this side. We'll have 10, 2 times 5, and then minus 2z is equal to, we can say z, and 4 and a negative 18 is going to give us 14, or negative 14. Now we can go ahead and combine our like terms. Let's go ahead and add 2z to this side so we can have positive z's in the end. We're going to add 2z over here. This will give us 0. 10 stays by itself on this side, and we'll end up with 3z minus 14 equals 10. Let's add 14 to this side. Plus 14 to this side. Now you're going to end up with 24. This makes 0 again. So 3z equals 24. We're going to divide by our coefficient of x to get 1z. And so z equals 8. Okay? One more example. Let's look and see how our equation is structured here. We only have 2 terms. We have one big term on this side and one big term on this side. And what are we going to multiply by? Well, let's multiply by a number that is divisible by both 9 and 3. In this case, the easiest one, or the smallest one, the least one, is going to be 9. So this is going to give us 9/9 times 2m minus 16 equals 9/3 times 2m plus 4. Let's go ahead and simplify those fractions. This is going to give us 1. So now we have 2m minus 16 equals 9 divided by 3 is 3 times 2m plus 4. Let's go ahead and distribute. We're going to get 6m plus 12 is equal to 2m minus 16. We can take 2 m's away from both sides. These are 0 pairs. Now we'll have 4m plus 12 equals negative 16. Let's subtract 12 from this side and this side. These are 0 pairs. So now 4m is equal to negative 28. Now we're going to divide by both sides by 4 because we want 1m. Divide by 4. That's going to give us m equals negative 7, because a negative divided by a positive is a 7. Negative divided by positive is negative. So negative 7 is our value for m. Okay?